Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is T, and you're watching Tokyo-Yo. Today we're going to be doing another little discussion. This one pops up quite a bit, especially with newer players. I know that I was one of these people too who's asking these questions at the beginning. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over a cold or allergies or getting into another allergy or cold. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, my voice is weird. Today, let's talk about vibe. Okay, so first let's talk about what is vibration in a yo-yo. So basically, this is what a lot of people sometimes have trouble defining. You see a lot of questions, people asking like, what is vibe? What does it mean when my yo-yo is vibey? So basically vibe just means vibration. It's when the yo-yo is vibrating. When you throw something down that's on a string and you've got two halves of metal or plastic that should be perfectly balanced, and one of them has an imbalance of some kind, or there's an imbalance in the thing connecting the two halves, you're going to get vibration. So that's what vibe is. It's when the yo-yo halves are, one or both of the yo-yo halves are vibrating. There's two different types of vibe that people talk about. One of them is nail vibe. That is basically means when you've thrown the yo-yo down and you've put your finger into the groove to steady any vibration that came from your throw, if there's still vibration against your fingernail, either on the rim or on the gap of the yo-yo, and it's still vibrating against your nail, that's nail vibe. Other types of vibe, I guess you'd consider, I like to call it visible vibe or pulsing vibe. That means like when you throw the yo-yo down, you've used your finger to steady any vibration that came from your throw. If you can see the yo-yo sort of pulsating, or you can feel it vibrating on the string, I call that visible vibe, and some people just call it vibe or pulse vibe or something like that. Vibe has been present in yo-yos since the start. So you wouldn't see a lot of people talking about it back then, because that's all there was when you had, only fixed axles and then Duncan Imperials and things like that, because every yo-yo did vibrate. Now there's starting to be less tolerance for it, so you're starting to see it become more of an issue, or at least people are talking about it more. But when you go back and you look at older yo-yos, even if you buy one brand new today, there's probably going to be some vibe present if you buy an older yo-yo. But at the same time, if you talk to people who grew up with them, or you talk to people who played yo-yos for a decade or two, they're gonna say, today's yo-yos, no matter how much vibe they seem to have, are nothing compared to how vibey old yo-yos used to be. But like, as far as where the history of vibe comes from, it's basically just becoming a thing now. I feel like it wasn't always a thing back then. It was always present, but nobody really cared about it. So what kind of yo-yos vibrate? Well, all of them actually. You're always going to have a little bit of vibration because, as I said, you're throwing something down hard. It is two either metal halves or plastic halves that are connected together by an axle and a ball bearing. Or in some cases like just a fixed, rod, like fixed axle. But in any case, you're going to have some vibration because of the nature of the thing. It's a gyroscopic toy that's spinning at a really, really high rate. So of course there's going to be some vibration. But generally, because plastic yo-yos used to be the thing, that's where you saw a lot of the vibration happening. And nowadays, you're getting a lot more metals too, but some of those will also have vibration. But I think, like I said, the tolerance for vibration has gone down. So you're starting to see the quality of yo-yos go up, and the tolerance for vibration has gone down quite a bit. Still, when you buy a plastic yo-yo or a hybrid yo-yo, something with like a plastic and metal, you're supposed to expect a little bit of vibration, because plastic yo-yos generally are a lot harder to get smooth. Not just because of the nature of the material, but a lot of times because of the weight or the distribution. It's just much more difficult to get a perfectly dead smooth plastic yo-yo. I just say difficult, I didn't say impossible. But at the same time, you're also going to have some metal yo-yos that, again, because of the material or even because of the finish, sometimes when you have a special type of material or finish on your yo-yo, a special kind of blast, you may feel like there's a little bit more nail vibe because of the material than you normally would find on a similar yo-yo with a different blast or different material. So it's not always just the way the yo-yo is balanced, but it also could be the way that it's blasted or the paint that was used or something like that.
Excuse me.
Hi.
What are you doing?
Oh, okay, so now as for the tolerances of the yo-yos that have vibe. So as I said, most yo-yos are still going to have some vibe, and that's totally normal. But you're seeing the quality of yo-yos improve vastly. And even plastic yo-yos, are coming out that are almost dead smooth, or approaching it. Companies like Magic Yo-Yo, putting out the Skyva, a lot of people consider that dead smooth by plastic standards. Yo-Yo Empire is putting out a lot of really incredibly smooth stuff these days. Even their hybrids are really, really smooth. But their solid plastics are really smooth too, both the Delrins and the polycarbs. Again, like I said, with material, that's going to depend. Usually I find polycarbonate vibrates a little bit more than something like POM or Delrin does. But these days you're seeing all these metals that are coming out where smoothness is a big factor for people. Again, because there are so many yo-yos coming out, because they are getting more expensive, people are expecting them to be smoother and smoother and smoother. And if they have a hint of vibration, people seem to get a little bit upset about that. And also when you're looking at yo-yos that have multiple materials, you've got like bimetals now, trimetals, whatever you want to call them, but bimaterials, hybrids. Whenever you have two materials that are going together that are not one solid body, there's always the risk that you're going to have some vibration in that setup, because it's just a natural occurrence. Like, you can't get the things to fit completely perfectly together. Now in some cases you can. There are other types of bimetals or hybrids that are extremely smooth. You know, they've built in really strict tolerances for the quality, how it comes out, so they should all be smooth. Or you just have a really high quality control. You know, you have companies like G Squared where the quality control is so high that if there's even a hint of vibe, it's either, you know, put down to a B grade or thrown out. But that really depends on the company. One company's A grade, which means a yo-yo with no vibration or problems, or another company's B grade. And B grade means, you know, a yo-yo that has some kind of either anodization flaw or vibration. Also, anytime, like I said, you have bimaterials or... Ooh, that's a big spider. Check out the spider.
Oh, you're a big boy.
Just for reference, if that guy spread out his legs, he could probably be as big as my hand. Ooh. Not only with bimetals, as I mentioned, but bimaterial yo-yos or yo-yos with kind of multiple moving parts. One good example is the One Drop series that use side effects. So any yo-yo that has a side effect, if you're not already aware of this, the side effect replaces the axle. So these are little accessories that fit into the cup area, and they also act as like a different weights or different colors. You can customize your yo-yo, but they also are the axle. And a lot of people say you've got to tune those kind of yo-yos especially, and I found that actually a lot of the yo-yos that have side effects, I've never gotten them smooth. I've gotten them really close, but the minute I have to take them apart or I want to switch a side effect, I got to go through the whole process of tuning them again, which is like taking them apart and turning them around and getting them to try to fit together properly. Like anytime, like I said, with bimetals, with bimaterials, anytime you have two separate materials that are going into one yo-yo, you're going to run the risk of introducing vibration. Now the last thing that can introduce vibration, and I think this depends on the company, and this also depends on who you ask. Some people get really angered by this, but let's get into it anyway, is taking apart your yo-yo. So a lot of people don't like to take apart their yo-yos, or a lot of people say that it's fine to take apart your yo-yos. So a lot of companies, if I'm not mistaken, I guess it depends on the company, they like to do quality control. They check the yo-yo before it goes out, make sure that it's spinning properly, make sure there's no vibration, make sure it's tuned properly, and then they send it out to stores. So some companies might also want to save money by doing less testing so they can get more units out, and so some yo-yos may arrive with more vibration than others. That's not to say those yo-yos can't be tuned, but that just means that they came with vibration in them because they weren't checked 100% when they were first sent out from the manufacturer. But again, some other people say, well, it's a toy, you should take the yo-yo apart. Of course, you don't have to leave it connected all the time. You know, with a side effect yo-yo, you want to take them out. With a lot of yo-yos, you want to switch the bearings out, put something else in. So it's natural that you want to take it apart. Which camp am I in? I used to be in the don't take anything apart camp. Now I find that there are very few yo-yos I have that I would consider 10 out of 10 smooth. So I don't really mind taking them apart as long as there's a reason to. I don't just do that if there's a knot or something like that. I will usually only take them apart if I want to switch the bearing or some other reason, like if I feel like I can tune it. And that kind of leads me to my last point, is like tuning. So you can tune a yo-yo to certain degrees depending on who you ask and what kind of yo-yo you're dealing with. So a lot of times what it takes to tune a yo-yo is you take the yo-yo apart. Some people say you could switch the side that the bearing is in, like kind of reverse its side, whichever way it's facing. Another way that you can try to move the way the yo-yo is balanced is by moving the axle, maybe switching it to the other side or kind of reversing its direction. And that theoretically lets you tune the yo-yo, trying to get it smoother than it was before, because every time you do that, you're kind of balancing the yo-yo out a little bit. Now, does this actually work? I found with some yo-yos it does, and I found that with some other yo-yos, no matter how much I tune them, they are exactly the same no matter what. Some people also like to Loctite them or use some sort of fastening material, like a glue basically, to find where the yo-yo plays really smooth, and then lock the axle in that place so that it never can move again. I personally find that really scary because if you drop it or something like that and the axle gets bent or moved around, it's going to be really hard to remove, but that's just me. Now, for the last part here, I guess kind of the most important thing is, does vibe matter? Frankly, it depends on the person. So when I first started, I was really, really obsessive about that stuff. I have some, let's just call them troubling, obsessive compulsive issues. And a lot of times when I am messing around with a yo-yo and I feel like it can't be perfect, and I feel like it could be smoother, that really bothers me. But that bothers me with anything. Like if I'm watching TV and the resolution is not maxed out, it kind of bothers me. Like I could make that better, and I'll spend a long time trying to make it better. Or if I'm playing a game and it's not optimized, I will spend more time playing with the settings than I will playing with the game. And it's the same with yo-yos. If I'm throwing something like a really nice bimetal that I paid a lot for, and it's not playing as smooth as I think it should, I will a lot of times spend more time trying to tune it and figure out how it plays better than I will actually playing with it, and that's kind of a problem. Now, as I've played with more and more yo-yos, that doesn't really bother me anymore, especially since I've played really, really smooth yo-yos. For example, like the OC. That thing is the smoothest thing I've ever played that is a mono metal. The IOU Steel and the IOU Veritas Pro are the two smoothest like biomaterial or two metal yo-yos that I've played. And once you kind of play something like that, you realize that like other stuff is not going to be that smooth. You're not going to really achieve that with every yo-yo. And then for me, it kind of like dissipated that feeling of like needing to get everything really smooth. The amount of vibe that bothers me that I will try to tune out is vibe I can feel. The vibe that really bothers me is the kind that you can feel on the string. So normally you're gonna feel some vibe, like no matter what, just a tiny little bit. That's kind of normal, I find, unless you're paying like over $100 for something, or I guess you could say even like 50 or 60 is kind of when I start thinking like this should play good. If I bought something for $50 or $60 and it's not smooth, that kind of bugs me because it's getting expensive. That's like a couple Blu-rays. That's like a big video game. That's like a really nice dinner. If I'm paying that much for a yo-yo and it's not at least approaching the 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10 smoothness, it kind of bugs me a little bit. It doesn't mean I'm not going to play it, but it just means like you're paying a lot. Like you should be getting something that is getting closer to the pinnacle of how its quality should be. The nail vibe doesn't bother me, but let's say you throw a trapeze and you can feel that still on the string like really hard, that bothers me. And so that's kind of like the thing really, is if the vibe is interrupting the play or the vibe is really creating a problem with the way you're playing the yo-yo, or it's causing snags and things like that, that's when it's going to become a problem. Now vibe usually doesn't get that bad, so it's not that much of a problem, but when you have vibration, like I mentioned, that is causing the yo-yo to move or shift or rub against the response, that's going to cause snags, it's going to cause it to tilt, it's going to mess with stability. Very rarely have I found a yo-yo that vibes that badly unless it was dropped horribly or the axle's messed up or something like that. So, in conclusion, vibe is not as big a deal, I think, as is made out of it. I think it's not so serious as long as you've been playing for a little bit. I find that the longer you play, the less of a bother it is. Once you know how to tune your yo-yos, there's always that. You can tune them a little bit. But I generally find that, just play the thing, have fun with it. Don't let it bother you too much. If the vibe is causing a problem with play, that's when you need to worry about it. But otherwise, just have fun with it, guys. It's all good. Anyway, that was so rambly. I don't know. I take notes for these and I have a script that I follow, but I still find myself jumping back and forth. So if this was confusing or dumb or you didn't like listening to it, let me know down in the comments. And yeah, if you want to see more of this, let me know. Hit me up down in the comments. If you have things you'd like me to discuss, put them down in the comments as well. Anyway, thanks a lot. Take care. Have a nice day. Sayonara.